Before I start this episode of the Last Wrestling Podcast, I want to level with you. I really tried to write a script for this one, and I'm on rewrite number 6, and I think this is recording number 4, and it's almost midnight the day before the Royal Rumble, after which this video will be useless. I have concluded that WWE is an unbookable mess right now. Because, if you can't tell from the title, this is me fantasy booking WrestleMania Liberty Crown. And it turns out that that's a complete cluster mess. I had 10 matches planned out. And it turned out that I had left out 3 singles titles and a tag team title. And most of the wrestlers that I actually like in WWE, or at least a lot of them, weren't on the card except possibly as Battle Royal filler. So this video will not be a complete mess, a complete booking of WrestleMania 35. This is going to be the actual top matches. The matches that I would book if I was booking WWE right now. And as such, there are going to be some ground rules here. First of all, number 1, no celebrities or unrealistic returning legends. That means no Austin, no Punk, no Rock, but Undertaker, Kane, or maybe Triple H, depending on his injury status, would be fair game. Rule number 2, no debuts unless they are already signed with the company. That means no Kenny Omega, no Young Bucks, no Okada, no Pentagon Dark, but everybody in NXT is available for a call-up. 3, no brand switches except for Royal Rumble victories, or except via Royal Rumble victories, I should say. That's pretty self-explanatory. The one exception I'm going to make is John Cena, who is canonically available to both brands as a free agent. So, with that out of the way, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Last Wrestling Podcast, because if I have a wrestling podcast, I have to talk about WrestleMania, whether I want to or not. As you know, if you've been following this show, I haven't watched or made a podcast about WWE since the Crown Jewel debacle. However, thanks to PW Torch and the YouTube wrestling community, I have kept up with the product. Shout out to Cultaholic. Join them. One of the sad facts of being even an amateur wrestling commentator is that you really have no choice but to keep up with the industry leader, like it or not. And the industry leader is WWE, like it or not. So with the Royal Rumble 2019 coming up this weekend, the WrestleMania card is about to come into focus, which means I need to get my bets in now or never. So this episode is me fantasy booking the top matches of WrestleMania Liberty Crown. Main event. Let's start at the top. I think the time has finally come for the women to stand atop the mountain of the grandest stage of the showcase of the yada yada yada. So for the first time, a women's match will main event WrestleMania, and that match is Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. And this will be for the WWE Raw Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey defending. It really can't be anything else, can it? Becky Lynch is one of the most over characters on the roster right now, and Rousey is far and away the biggest mainstream star in the company, and we know how much Vince loves himself some mainstream media attention. Now, to set this up, we need Becky Lynch, who is currently a SmackDown wrestler, to win the Women's Royal Rumble, and challenge Rousey, claiming that she's the man who never lost the SmackDown title, essentially making this champion versus champion, at least in her mind. I know Becky is in the match with Asuka at the Royal Rumble. I'm going to have Asuka retain there. In fact, I'm not planning any title changes or title changes anybody cares about for the Royal Rumble. Now, while I believe that matches should be face versus heel 98% of the time, this is one of the few exceptions. Promote this as the dream match. This is Superman, Batman. This is Ali Frazier. This is Ryu and Scorpion. This is something like that. Some fans are going to cheer Lynch and some are going to cheer Rousey. That's fine, let them do it. This is the Clash of the Titans. So have them act that way in the build. Have both of these women be honorable about this. Nobody attacks anybody from behind. Nobody sets fire to anyone's house. Nobody kills anybody's dog. Nobody calls each other's mother a whore. Nothing. It's all about who is the better fighter. Ideally, the biggest promo or the most succinct promo should be Rousey saying, Lynch, you say you're the best. I'm say I the best. I'm say I the best. It is late. I say I'm the best. I have this, holds up title belt, and this says I'm right. So if you really think you're better than me, come and take it. And also when we get to the show, bonus points if Rousey actually comes to the ring dressed as Sonya Blade, flanked by an army of either ninjas, Lin Kuei, or Shirai Ryu, or possibly Special Forces agents. Yes, I'm a Mortal Kombat dork. Winner, Becky Lynch. This will not only move her to the bigger stage of the Raw brand, but will keep her away from the SmackDown Women's title for reasons that I will explain in a moment. Now, there have been rumors circulating that Ronda Rousey will be leaving WWE after WrestleMania, and this can be her putting over Lynch on the way out. But if she's sticking around, this loss could also be, because this would be her first real loss in WWE, and historically, we know Ronda Rousey doesn't deal with loss very well. This can be the inciting incident for a Ronda Rousey heel turn if they feel they absolutely must do that. Speaking of the women's titles, for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and no, I don't think it's going to be a semi-final match on the show, except for the main event, these matches are in no particular order. Oh, and by the way, just for the record, there is one main event. It is the final match on the show. I would have that be Rousey and Lynch. But elsewhere on the card somewhere for the SmackDown Women's Championship, Asuka will defend against Charlotte. Or Charlotte Flair, or I don't know. Is there a rule about who gets last name privileges? This match is all about one word: redemption. Last year, Charlotte was ready for Asuka. This year, Asuka wants to prove she is ready for Charlotte. After Becky Lynch chooses to go after the Raw title, it's actually Asuka who makes the challenge to Charlotte, in fact beseeching the McMahons to make the match. Not necessarily because Charlotte has earned it, because she hasn't, but because Asuka needs to avenge her loss from last year. She needs the redemption. And she sees how, after losing to Charlotte at WrestleMania 34, Asuka's career has gone down the tubes. She lost matches to James Ellsworth like twice. She lost to Carmella a bunch of times. Bring this up. Shoot with this. After she lost at WrestleMania, everything went downhill. Yes, that's the booking. That'll be a shout out to the so-called smart fans. Yes, I'm aware of the irony. But it'll also be true, because in the storyline, she started losing a lot more. In Asuka's mind, yes, she's the SmackDown champion, but without beating Charlotte one-on-one, not in a ladder match, not in a multi-man match, without beating Charlotte one-on-one, Asuka believes she has no right to call herself a champion, so this match must be for the title. During the build, Asuka is the face, Charlotte is the condescending, overconfident heel. She beat Asuka before, she can do it again, no sweat. Literally, we don't see her sweat. Charlotte makes a show of how she isn't training for the match. In the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, we see montages of Asuka training her heart out, juxtaposed with Charlotte having a spa day, discussing a new ring robe with her personal tailor, because of course she has a personal tailor, and sitting at poolside, maybe in a nice swimsuit, reading Japanese for Dummies so she can insult Asuka in her native language. Or Japanese for beginners, maybe you don't want to call her a dummy. On the go-home show, a pampered and relaxed Charlotte, maybe with a spray tan, can saunter over to the ring and beat 3 jobbers in a handicap elimination match, tapping the last one out to the figure 4, in a grand total of couple of minutes, before she gets on the mic and says, "Hey, you all thought I was being lazy, didn't you? Well, guess what, peasants? When you're this naturally gifted, you don't need to train. You just have to be genetically superior. Oh, and Asuka? Watashi wa tsuyoi, anata wa yoai. Watashi no kazoku wa densetsuke. Anata no kazoku wa dare desu ka? Rough translation: I'm strong, you're weak. My family is legendary. Your family is... who? Winner, Asuka. She avenges her loss and begins a new undefeated streak that will last until she faces Becky Lynch, champion versus champion, and possibly title for title, at next year's WrestleMania. So we're building to the future and we're acknowledging the past. Now let's take a look at the men's championships. The big question is, will Brock Lesnar still be Universal Champion by WrestleMania, or will Finn Balor take it from him at the Royal Rumble? No. No, he will not. I want to see it too, but I just don't think it's happening. Now, by the time this video goes up, it's going to be hours before the Rumble event at most. So, this could be completely wrong by the time we get out of it. But I'm going to go with the assumption right now that Lesnar retains at the Rumble, or he gets the title back the next night on Raw or something. Because they are desperate to get the ratings up for Raw. They might want to burn a Lesnar appearance for a match. So, for the WWE Universal Championship, we're going to do Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles. That's right, both Royal Rumble winners are going to switch brands. But with ratings in the toilet, we need dream matches. So if we have to, we can balance things out with a superstar shakeup later. But right now, we need to shift ratings, and that means dream matches. So AJ Styles wins the Royal Rumble after failing to beat Daniel Bryan for the SmackDown title. And let's say Bryan beats him by punching him in the nuts, because that's what you do to beat AJ Styles, is you punch him in the nuts. So AJ wins the Rumble. His justification here is twofold. First, he is sick and tired of getting kicked in the dick all the time, and wherever Suplex City might be, it is nowhere near Dick Kick City, shout out to Brian Zane. To the point that AJ will actually get Paul Heyman to agree in writing, because they'll do a contract signing angle. Get Heyman to agree in writing that if Brock Lesnar is disqualified specifically for a low blow, AJ would win the title. Heyman confidently, mockingly, agrees, saying that Brock Lesnar doesn't need to resort to such pathetic tactics to beat anyone. Especially the guy who for 10 years just wasn't good enough for WWE. Second, AJ wants to do what nobody else has ever done. Deal Lesnar the biggest defeat of his life. How does he know he's the man for the job? Because he is phenomenal. Now, up until now, I've been trying to come up with winners that I think WWE might conceivably do. This is not one of them. Winner, AJ Styles. Since WWE probably isn't all that happy with the amount of money they've been paying Lesnar compared to what they're getting out of him at this point, or what they aren't getting out of him, this can be the do decisive job on your way out match. Now, if Ronda Rousey's leaving too, maybe you pay through the nose and keep Lesnar around a bit. If Rousey's staying, maybe you don't need Brock Lesnar's MMA credentials anymore. Moving on to the other brand, the blue brand, for their men's title. For the WWE Championship, Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe. And I'm going to have Joe win the Elimination Chamber to earn this title shot. And basically the story is going to be that Daniel Bryan is going to mock Joe for his, quote, obvious consumption habit. Basically fat jokes, because it's Vince McMahon. And Joe, being the man willing and able to shut up the new Daniel Bryan, should hopefully make Joe the babyface here. I know Joe is a more natural heel, Bryan's a more natural babyface, but they're determined to play Bryan for reasons I don't understand as the bad guy, which means Joe has to be the good guy, and being sort of the take no nonsense badass, we can get that over as a hero. Not really much else to book here because these two know how to put on a fantastic wrestling match, and even though they are nowhere near as young as they were in their Ring of Honor days, give them 20 to 25 minutes, let them do whatever the hell they want, and put together the work rate match of the evening. Now, for the first time in the night, we're going to have Daniel Bryan, and we're going to have the heel win. Bryan is going to win by nefarious means, and will take this opportunity to debut his new environmentally friendly championship belt, which I imagine will be, a strap made of hemp or something. Now, before we get into the other titles, I'm going to briefly go over a couple of singles matches that I had as... I don't know if these are all going to be top matches, but significant matches that I would try to feature as much as I can. First is John Cena versus Drew McIntyre. Now, McIntyre is going to be a future champion, so he needs a showcase match. And with Cena, to be honest, no longer giving a damn half the time, he should have no problems jobbing to an up-and-comer. He's pretty much Teflon at this point anyway, so who cares? Drew will enter this match as the disrespectful heel, but hopefully we can turn him babyface mid-match, with Cena acknowledging his skill by the end. Although I would have... you probably have to have McIntyre win. We might have Cena basically either shaking his hand or raising his arm or something like that. We can have that be the new generation versus old generation in the build, where basically, essentially having McIntyre mock Cena's old "your time is up, my time is now" shtick. I also have in a tag team match Finn Balor, who's not going to be the champion, sorry. Finn Balor and The Undertaker. Yep, tag team match for The Undertaker. And it's not Kane this time. Although if you wanted to add Kane and somebody else to make a trios match, we could make that work. But this works as a tag team too. Balor and The Undertaker versus a returning Bray Wyatt and his recently re-hypnotized minion, Braun Strowman. I like Bray Wyatt. I like the idea of the character, but he's not allowed to win, ever. However, doing this tag team match is going to protect both Taker and Strowman. Taker because, well, at this point, he's Taker, he can't go anymore. And Strowman, who I understand is dealing with knee problems. They'll be protected in the tag team scenario because that way Balor and Wyatt, who I understand has been medically cleared to compete, so I'm allowed to use him, will be able to essentially do a lot of the heavy lifting. The big thing is going to be the angle with Taker and Balor. I've talked about this before, but I don't know if I've done it on this show, so I'm going to give you the brief thing here. Undertaker comes out, his full ring entrance, complete, and this is important, with druids. We established the druids are here. Finn Balor comes out as the Demon. He comes out second. Undertaker stands in the ring as Balor does his full Demon routine, but in the end, Balor comes into the ring and gets down on his knees and bows to the Undertaker. He either genuflects or gets down on both knees and prostrates himself before the superior force of darkness. Undertaker says nothing, he just looks down and nods. Wyatt and Strowman come out. Wyatt's in charge. Strowman is, look in his eyes. He's staring off into the middle distance. He's clearly not there. In the end, Wyatt takes the fall. I'm sorry. We can do something to build him up later. He and Strowman get out of the ring as soon as they lose. Balor slinks out of the ring, willing to give The Undertaker his moment in the spotlight. Taker stops him, beckons him back into the ring. Taker, either if his knees will let him drop down and do the darkness pose, he does that, or maybe just raises his arm to summon the druids, who will appear in the smoke and all of that, and they'll just sort of come out, and you have them a bunch of them. This is all of the Druids. You get to the point that they're surrounding the ring, they're on their way up the ramp, they're on the stage. And if you can do either a hologram projection or you can do some sort of projection mapping, you have the Undertaker symbol on the stage somewhere. Undertaker extends his hand to the Demon King Balor. They grasp hands at the wrist. The Undertaker and Balor looking around, he's not entirely sure what's going on here, but he takes the Undertaker's hand. Undertaker raises his other fist. The lightning strikes, lights go out. When the lights come back up, the Undertaker is gone. All that's left in the ring is his hat. And the Druids have peeled back their hoods to reveal that they are wearing, probably not face paint because that would eventually look bad, but full body stockings, black body stockings. There's a name for them, like zoot suits or something like that, but full body black suits with Finn Balor style face paint design on the fabric of the suit. You'd have to make a bunch of these. A lot of the costume budget would go into this, but it's WrestleMania, you can afford it. And then Balor looks at his hands, not entirely believing what he's feeling. He looks at his hands as if he's only seeing them for the first time, and then he throws up his hands in the big spread eagle gesture, and that causes the lightning to strike again, indicating that the power of the Undertaker has been transferred. It has been given. It has been bequeathed. The torch hath been passed to the new dark demon. And you can tell a story going forward with Finn Balor adapting himself to this legacy of the Undertaker that he has inherited, and you can go forward with that. This would be actually my swan song for the Undertaker until he returns to go into the Hall of Fame. I've got one other singles match, and that'd be Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose in some kind of a stipulation match. Either a steel cage, last man standing, I quit, something like that, just to end this feud. And if there's any way to get Roman Reigns to show up just for an appearance, obviously he's not going to wrestle at this year's WrestleMania or probably ever again. But if we can get him to show up, and between now and Mania, you have Dean Ambrose get a little more explicit about how Roman got what he deserved, the Shield was a mistake, everything that I did for the Shield was a waste of my time. I was the United States champion for nearly a year, but instead of defending it like a proper champion, I was doing it for the team, and I was helping the team. Yeah, the last time you, Seth Rollins, stabbed your brothers in the back, Roman forgave you, because let's face it, he's a softie. He's a wimp. He thinks with his heart, not with his head. And I always knew someday that would get him into trouble. But now, I'm the big dog. I'm the one in charge of this yard, of this asylum, whatever you want to call it, I'm in charge. And I need to put you down. I would have Ambrose win that man. So it's Ambrose fighting for himself and his own selfishness and his own ego. Seth Rollins fighting for Roman Reigns and ostensibly for the fans. I would have Dean Ambrose win this, and I have Seth Rollins go away for 6 months and come back once we actually have a character for him. Because as Stone Cold Steve Austin has said, I don't know what Seth freaking Rollins means. I don't know who this guy is. So 6 months away, send him to acting camp, and have the writers come up with a legitimate backstory for the guy. Moving on to the rest of the titles. By the way, that was 7 matches already, and we still haven't gotten into anything except the top men's and women's titles. Speaking of titles, by Wrestlemania, and this is a story that's been kind of buried lately, we're going to have women's tag team titles in WWE, and this is going to be our returning Legends match. I would have Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Bailey. Why do I have... I actually wrote... Oh, God. How many times have I rewritten this? I actually wrote down Becky. That should be Bailey. I would have them as technically the heel tag team champions. With Sasha Banks being the out-and-out heel, Bailey kind of going along with it but not being horribly happy about it. Or maybe actually just embracing being a villain for the first time in her career. You know, Izzy's old enough to understand by now. But they're the tag team champions, and they're going to be facing off against returning legends, Team Bestie, Trish Stratus and Lita. And that's going to be our big returning nostalgia act for the year. I would probably have Sasha and Bailey win that. Mostly because they're the ones who are going to be around. Other story that I've actually got here is Roode and Gable defending the Raw Tag Team Championship against the Revival. And this is going to be the Revival's coming out party. I know they've probably gotten themselves into a lot of heat backstage with the whole, we want out of our contracts, we can go work for AEW, and WWE going, ha 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 ha, no. So this is almost certainly not going to happen, but it's what I would book. Roode and Gable are going to look like a couple of idiots. They are going to be outclassed, out-techniqued, out-strategized, and out-wrestled by the Revival from the opening bell. The only reason this match is going to go more than about 6 minutes is because Revival are going to play with Roode and Gable. Now, because Gable, of the two right now, Gable's got the better upside, so I'm going to protect him a little bit. Roode and Gable are not going to get a single offensive move in on the Revival. At least not that doesn't get countered immediately. But the Revival are going to spend most of the match working over Roode. You know, cut the ring in half, prevent the tag, do everything they can, and they're going to pin Roode. Maybe Gable gets into the match for a little bit, depends on how much time they want to give him, but probably not. Afterward, Roode can be pissed that Gable cost him the tag team titles, even though it was Roode that lost, and that will, you know, turn Roode fully heel, which he desperately needs. But the Revival are going to squash Roode and Gable, take the tag team titles, hold them up, get on the mic at the end and say, ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed history. You have witnessed the first day the WWE tag team titles mattered. It has been said that 2 great men will always lose to 1 great team, and that is what has stood before you. The Revival, the 1 great team. And they can go forward and make tag team wrestling mean something. Yes, I know Vince won't do that. I don't care. We've also got the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and just for funsies, I'd have Rey Mysterio win that. For the Legendary Vagina Trophy, the Women's Battle Royal, Nia Jax, why not? And that's about all I've got, meaning we've got no U.S. title, we've got no IC title, SmackDown Tag Team titles, which will probably be on the waists of Miz and Shane McMahon, in which case, I don't care, stick them against the New Day or something. U.S. title, Rusev, Randy Orton, I guess, maybe give Randy Orton the... You can tell you can tell I'm burning out right now. I don't care. There's so many titles, none of which mean anything. So many wrestlers that deserve to be on the show, but aren't going to be. I've got nothing for the Bar right now. Unless they're in the match with Miz and Miz and Shane, which would get them off the pre-show, I guess. IC title, Lashley and Apollo Crews, maybe? Lashley and... I don't know. And then, of course, we've got the Cruiserweight title, which... Is Buddy Murphy still the champion? I think? I don't know. Fight a luchador. I don't care. It's going to be on the pre-show. Nobody cares. So yeah, that's about as far as I got into fantasy booking WrestleMania before I completely burned out. Because WrestleMania is an unbookable monstrosity right now. Here's what I would do if somebody actually were to give me the pencil with WWE. Get through WrestleMania, throw as many dream matches as you can, hot shot, as many big matches as you can, especially if you know you're going to lose people. And Raw after WrestleMania, make a couple of big announcements that we're unifying the titles. And this is going to be, they did this with Rock and Cena, and they shouldn't have done that with a specific match, so they've done it with a stipulation. At WrestleMania 36, in insert name of city here, next year, the tag team titles will be unified. The women's titles will be unified. The Intercontinental and United States Championships will be unified. One of those is going away. And the WWE and Universal titles will also be unified. So every single championship match between Raw after WrestleMania 35 and WrestleMania 36 matters, because that could be your ticket to WrestleMania. And they'll announce ahead of time. You have a match between the two champions at Survivor Series. The winner of the match gets to choose. One of the two champions will defend their title through the Rumble. One will defend it the Elimination Chamber. And that determines who faces each other at WrestleMania. But the power of the privilege goes to whoever wins the brand versus brand match at Survivor Series. So by the end of this, you will have only 6 titles on the main roster. WWE Championship, WWE Women's Championship, Men's Tag Team titles, Women's Tag Team titles, a secondary belt that will probably call the Intercontinental Championship, and you'll have the Cruiserweight title. Other than that, you'll have the 4 NXT titles, which will be exclusive to NXT, and I just realized that even with unifying a bunch of belts, there's still going to be 10 bloody titles in this company, and that's not the end of it. And you'd have the regional championships, NXT UK. By that point, they'll probably be starting up NXT Mexico, NXT Japan, NXT Germany. I don't really care. Maybe bring back the European title for NXT Germany. That'd be cool. But for right now, that's what I've got for WrestleMania. It's got some matches I think are good. It's got some matches I think that suck. But I'm doing the best I can. And I'm starting to see why WWE loves multi-man, triple threat, fatal four-way matches. Because you've got so many wrestlers, so much talent that you want to get on the show, and usually it just doesn't work. I am starting to actually respect the people who actually have to write this stuff for a living for WWE. So much easier booking every other promotion I've seen. Okay, it's after midnight. I'm going to try to get this up quick. Thanks for watching. Korede Kimarida.